It will not hold your life back. If anything, it will give you your life back. It hasn't affected my relationships as well, because I know a lot of people get worried about if they've got a partner, if they're looking for a partner, that it'll affect them in that way. I've been quite lucky because my husband's been with me since I got diagnosed with Crohn, so he's been through the whole journey, and he always says to me, it doesn't change who you are. You just go to the toilet differently. That's it.
This is Harriet, who got diagnosed with Crohn's disease at age 22 in Staffordshire, the UK. Harriet was already familiar with inflammatory bowel disease when she was diagnosed, because her own father has been living with Crohn's disease for a long time. But that didn't make her own journey that much easier. Harriet had to navigate motherhood when she was at her worst, but thanks to great family support, she came out on top. Today, on Colitis Unfiltered, she'll tell us all about her journey. My name is Frank Tabering, and Harriet, welcome to the show.
Hi.
So Harriet, Crohn's disease, diagnosis at 22. What were your first symptoms? What happened to your body that prompted you to seek some medical guidance? Tell us how it all began for you.
Yeah, so in my teenage years, I was diagnosed with IBS. So I thought I had IBS for years, and then I started getting blood in my poo, like a lot of blood, and my dad has Crohn's disease. So my dad was a bit like, Harriet, I think this is more than IBS. I think you need to go and get checked out by the doctor. And I was a bit like, oh, I'm not sure. And I went to the doctor and they did a stool sample and it came back with a raised calprotectin. They sent me for a colonoscopy. I had the colonoscopy done and it was actually originally diagnosed with IBDU, so IBD unclassified. They couldn't tell the difference if it was Crohn's or colitis. So it was a bit like that for a few years. Tried loads of different medications and everything. And then I had a stoma bag done in 2023 because my colon was it was really bad. I couldn't hold my stools in. I was doing myself. It was really embarrassing. And when I had the stoma done, they did the pathology on my colon and they said, actually, you have definitely got Crohn's disease. My consultant actually said, I think you have Crohn's disease because of the nature of it, but the biopsies were very strange. Apparently, it was quite complex. But because after my stoma, it came back in my small intestine, which I'd never had it there before, they were just like, you've definitely got Crohn's disease. So it was all a bit up and down for a while, but yeah, it wasn't the best journey, to be honest.
Navigating an IBD diagnosis, there's the physical part, but there's obviously also the mental aspect of it. And most people typically are not fully aware of what Crohn's is or what colitis is, right? It's their first contact with IBD when they get diagnosed. You have a dad who has Crohn's. In what way do you think has this made it easier for you to process the IBD diagnosis and to start navigating the disease post-diagnosis?
I wouldn't say it was easy to begin with. Like when my dad was saying, I think you might have got something more than IBS. I was a bit in denial because I'd seen what my dad had gone through. My dad had gone through resections. He hasn't got a stoma bag, but he went through resections and things like that and different medications. He was quite a big man and then he went really underweight. And I just thought to myself, oh no, I hope this isn't what's in store for me. And my dad was very reassuring. He was very supportive. And he still is now. He's been really great with it. And I wouldn't say I've had it worse than him because he's gone through a lot as well. But he always says to me, you've had it 100 times worse having to have the bag and everything. But he's been a great support. But I will say, when I was first diagnosed, I had a lot of anxiety around it because I thought I was going to be just like him. But yeah, he's been a great support.
How did you deal with that anxiety? I mean, your dad was there, obviously, helping you out. But one person might not be enough for you to be, let's say, become comfortable, right, with this diagnosis and stuff. How did you deal with this fear, with this unknown about your own IBD journey?
I found it really hard. To start with. It really affected my mental health. So I actually went to therapy. So I went to the doctor, explained how I was feeling with it, and my mental health was really bad. And they suggested therapy to me, and I hadn't really done it before, and I was a bit like, So I went ahead with it. They did put me on some antidepressants as well because I was really that bad mentally. I'm not as bad now as I was, even though I've gone through a lot. But the initial anxiety to start with was horrendous. It was really bad.
And so before you had your surgery, did you go through any treatments? How long did you go through these treatments? Did they stop working? Because I'm curious to see what eventually really led to your medical team saying, "Hey, you need to have surgery, and that's the only option for you."
Yeah, so basically I started on like the mesalazine, the Pentasa, which is like a really mild drug to start with, and that was working for a little bit. And then they wanted me to try azathioprine, and I had a really bad allergic reaction to that, like really bad. So they were like, right, we'll stop that. And then they moved me on to biologics. So I went on Humira, I think it's called adalimumab. I'm not quite sure if I pronounced that properly, but I was on that for a year and it worked really well. And then it just stopped working. I developed antibodies. So they tried me with infliximab, which I know is a really popular one for IBD, and it just didn't work for me. I had really high expectations and it didn't work. So they tried it over like about 6 months and nothing happened with it. So they were a bit like, right, we'll take you off that one. And then I tried Stelara, ustekinumab, and I was on that for 5 years. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. It did give me a little bit of a headache after injection, but it was the best biologic I'd ever taken. And when I was actually pregnant with my second child, when I told the hospital that I was pregnant, they took me off the medication straight away, which was a bit of a mistake on their behalf. And I was a bit angry actually at the time because another local hospital, I knew somebody who was pregnant who was in my area that was under the other local hospital, and she was allowed to stay on her Stelara. So I was a bit like, why have I got to be taken off it? And they did say like the risks to the baby, etc., etc. And I was like, okay, I understand. And they said, we'll just treat you with steroids. So I've had a lot of courses of prednisolone in my time with having Crohn's. And they said, we'll just treat you with steroids if you get really bad. Lo and behold, I got into my third trimester with my son, and I got really, really ill. And they put me on the prednisolone. I still wasn't 100%, and I developed gestational diabetes off the prednisolone. And then when I had my son, I was okay for a little bit, for a couple of months, and then I wasn't. I just went really downhill. They tried me back on the Stelara. It didn't work. It didn't work. So I don't know if I'd developed antibodies. That's what they said. They think I developed antibodies to it. And it just got that bad. I couldn't control my bowels. We couldn't go out for a day out. It was really depressing, to be fair, because I was just trying to go out with my young family and I was just stuck on the toilets the whole time we went out. And it got to the point where me and my consultant, we had a chat and he was like, I really do think you need to have a stoma now. You need your large bowel removed because your last scope that you just had is really bad. So I was booked in for it in the April in 2023. And then I actually had to have it as an emergency in the March because I was that unwell. I presented to A&E and they were just like, we need to do the surgery now because you're developing toxic megacolon. So yeah, and that's how it all came about. But now I'm on Skyrizi. So I've been like 3 years with the stoma bag and I've been on Skyrizi for a year because my Crohn's come back in my small bowel after my surgery. But the Skyrizi has been brilliant. I've got no side effects. My Crohn's has gone away and I'm in remission. So it's good.
That's perfect. You already answered my question, how you're feeling now, but we're going to come back to that in a second. We're also going to talk about motherhood because I think motherhood and IBD, this is a fascinating topic in itself. But before we get there, I would like for you to tell me, so you talked about anxiety before and how you sort of dealt with that leading up to the surgery. But now, waking up from surgery, your life has changed, your body has changed, you have a stoma now. What went through your mind when you first saw the stoma? And how did you process that mentally, at least the first couple of days after the surgery?
I'm not going to lie, it was awful. It was awful. It was weird because I was 50-50. I was 50% this is dreadful. And then I was 50% this is time to get my life back. And when they actually came around and showed me how to do my first stoma change, they took the stoma bag off and I nearly fainted at the sight of it. Now, I've seen stomas before, don't get me wrong, I've seen them before with my job and things, but to have it on my body and it was so swollen because it had just been so like newly done, It really shocked me. And the one thing that shocked me the most was the smell from it. So I don't mean as in like a poo smell. It was like a flesh smell. And the nurse was like, yeah, because it's a brand new stoma, it's going to smell a little bit. And I was so taken aback. I was very anxious to even touch it. But over the next few coming days, I actually got used to it. I was emptying my own stoma bag on day 2. I was changing my own stoma bag on day 2. It was just getting over that first initial bit of shock, to be honest. But I was okay. I was discharged on day 5, and they said I'd done really well considering. So, yeah, it was a bit nerve-wracking.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. Now, you said that currently you feel great, and most of the people that I talk to who had surgery, of course, tell me that, listen, my IBD journey actually is not over necessarily. I'm not really cured because, of course, living with the stoma, it has its own challenges. For you, what is life like now with your stoma? You mentioned already, you're feeling well with your Crohn's. What are your challenges that you still encounter living with a stoma today?
It's the things like leaks. Now, I don't suffer really bad with leaks with my stoma bag, but it still always is a worry because I like to go walking and hiking. I do quite a lot of sport as well, especially running. And before I go out, I have to make sure that stoma bag is glued right down. And I always have a spare change of like my stoma bags in my car as well, just in case anything happens. I do still have that anxiety that my bag's going to leak. That's the worst thing for me. But other than that, it's been great, to be honest. It's just the leaking, and if I'm at work, I have to take in my locker. I've got a spare change just in case. That's the biggest thing for me.
And just health-wise, otherwise, how are you feeling? Because you also have gastroparesis, I think. How is that sort of impacting your overall health now?
Not very good, to be honest. When people see this feeding tube, they automatically think it's for IBD, and I always have to say it's not. This is for gastroparesis. My IBD is absolutely fine, but this gastroparesis developed after I had my stoma surgery. So the stoma surgery is still the best thing I ever had done in my life, but I didn't realise there could be some complications afterwards. So they think I've got potential nerve damage from the operation. That's why my stomach's going very slow and I'm in so much pain with it. So yeah, it's not the best. I'm not going to lie. They are putting me forward for a PEG J tube, but I would still have the stoma surgery again. I'd still have it.
hmm But overall, as far as your IBD concerned, you just mentioned it, you give you your quality of life back and you wouldn't change a thing. A lot of people who are facing that same, let's say, outcome, or who see surgery potentially as the only other option, one thing that sort of comes up is fear. Obviously, that their life may just be ruined. That this appearance of the stoma is going to prevent them from doing so many things. As somebody who lives with one, as somebody who's accepted it, as somebody who's doing much better because of it, what's your message to those people who are potentially facing or are sure to be facing surgery and just cannot get on board with this idea of living with a body that changes so much, who are really that afraid? What would you tell them?
It will not hold your life back. If anything, it will give you your life back. Like I say, I do a lot of sport. I do running, I do swimming. It hasn't affected my relationships as well, because I know a lot of people get worried about if they've got a partner, if they're looking for a partner, that it'll affect them in that way. I've been quite lucky because my husband's been with me since I got diagnosed with Crohn's, so he's been through the whole journey, and he always says to me, it doesn't change who you are. You just go to the toilet differently. That's it. It doesn't change who you are. And I used to be that person. They did put me forward for a stoma in 2019, and I said no. I said absolutely not. I'm not pooing into a bag. I'm not doing any of that. I was really scared about it, and I thought about my body image as well, and I was just like, no. And then in the end, I was like, give it me. I can't live like this anymore, and I wish I'd have done it sooner. I wish I'd have done it sooner. It's given me my life back.
In what way did your perception of your own body change? Because body image is a huge thing, right? Like that, you have your body, you're already struggling with it physically when you have active IBD, but then you have surgery and it's sort of your entire body image changes. How was that for you?
It was hard at first. I think as well, not just because I'm a woman, I'm very critical of my body anyway, especially because like I used to take a lot of prednisolone, my weight changes. I used to be a very big girl, then I'd lose weight, then I'd gain it all again. And then having a stoma bag on top of it, I used to think they were really gross. I'd be like, oh God, pooing in a bag. Like you've got some of your intestine hanging out your body. How gross. And just to start with, it took a while to accept it with my body image, but now it's just another part of me. It's just a little bag I've got on me. Like I know the stoma itself isn't attractive. It's not going to be because it's a bit of intestine hanging out of your body. But I always look at it now and I just think, you saved my life. And I don't think, oh, this is some disgusting thing. The only problem I do have sometimes is when I put certain clothes on and you can see like the bulge of it. That's the only thing I don't like, because I like to show my stoma bag when I want to show it, if you get what I mean. But other than that, yeah, it took a while to accept, especially body image wise, but I'm all right now.
Navigating IBD, navigating surgery, that's one challenge. Navigating relationships, it can be difficult. And I'm very happy to hear that it really worked for you. It seems your husband was really on your side. You had support from your dad as well. But being a mother and struggling with IBD, that's one thing. Being a mother and struggling with IBD and having a surgery, it's another challenge on top of it. Talk to me a little bit about what that was like for you to navigate motherhood during times when you are struggling with your health, and also if there's sort of a difference between the struggles of dealing with motherhood and IBD before surgery and after surgery.
Before surgery, it was really difficult because I have got a daughter as well. She's 9 and she was just getting used to seeing me ill all the time, if you get what I mean. And she was very, are you okay, mummy? You're not very well today, and things like that. It was awful. And then when I had my surgery, my son was only 1 year old and my husband had to just like take the whole slack of it all, because I was in and out of hospital before the surgery with these flare-ups, terrible. And I used to feel really guilty, and I still do. When I have my bad days, I feel really guilty for my children because they're not getting 100% of me, if you get what I mean. They're not getting the whole of me, and I can get a little bit irritable when I'm in a flare because you do, don't you? You don't feel very well. And I feel like sometimes I snap and then I feel really guilty because they're only little. Like my son's 4 now and my daughter's 9. And it's hard mentally because I feel so guilty on them because they're only little and they shouldn't have to be seeing that with a parent, to be honest.
So having support like spousal support or support from the extended family is really the key difference maker here, especially when it comes to raising children. And I'm very happy that you had that. So for you, having a dad with Crohn's, you having Crohn's, is that something that has circled your mind that, but could they potentially get IBD too? Is the risk higher? Like, has this come to your mind, and how have you dealt with it, if so?
Yes, it has. Time and time again. My son actually not long ago had a bit of blood in his poo because he's 4. And I was a bit like, oh my God, why is this happening? I completely went over the top. I was ringing the doctors, and my husband was just a bit like, calm down. It probably isn't what you've got. Just calm down. And I was a bit like, well, why is he pooing blood? And took him to the doctors, and it was actually because he started at nursery and he'd been having like the UHT boxed milk. And as soon as we stopped that, he stopped bleeding out his bottom. So we think he did have a milk allergy when he was a baby as well. So it was to do with the milk. And I'd completely overreacted. I said to the doctor, I said, well, I've got Crohn's disease. I said, my dad's got Crohn's disease. I'm really paranoid that this is what's happening with him. Can you do some tests? And she was a bit like, whoa, calm down. We're going to speak through things. Has anything changed? And then obviously I said about the milk at school, and she said, tell them to stop the milk, see if it helps. And as soon as he stopped doing that. But I know it sounds very strange, but I do monitor their bowel movements, not to sound like some strange person, but like if my daughter will say like, I feel a bit constipated or I feel a bit bunged up, I'm like, the first thing I think is, oh God, I hope this is gonna pass. Like I do get quite worried about it. And then I've got my husband really trying to reassure me, which does help. I try not to get worked up, but sometimes I do get a bit worried because of me and my dad. But it doesn't always necessarily mean that your children are going to get it. I think it's just unlucky with me and my dad because my cousin's got ulcerative colitis as well, and he's got a stoma bag. And I think it's just, I think it is a little bit in our family, but it doesn't always mean that it's going to be passed down, if you get what I mean. So there is a bit of a worry there.
Of course. And then, we as IBD warriors here, we already have ourselves to be worried about. And we have this fear of like, oh, is the next flare coming along? How long can we stay in remission? Or what else? What other conditions am I going to develop because of this disease? Now, if you have kids, that just adds an extra layer of stress potentially, and something extra that we have to manage as well. I talked to my GI, I asked her the question, hey, listen, I'm the dad, I'm the only one with IBD. Is there a risk? And at least her perspective was, honestly, it's not something to worry about. If one of the parents has IBD, there's maybe a microscopic chance, a percentage that goes up. But she says that it's kind of still so insignificant that there's really no direct link between, dad or mom or genetics and stuff. So, we can hopefully put our heads to rest as we keep going. So you've experienced a lot over those last years through your IBD journey, and a medical experience like that one is not an easy one to process. How has Crohn's disease changed you as a person?
I used to be very quiet. So anybody that knows me, I was like, especially at school and in my early 20s, I was a very, very quiet person. Like some people would say I was like a mute. And then because I've had to advocate for myself, because the NHS isn't in a great place at the moment, it's overrun. People are underpaid. It's really diabolical when you get admitted into hospital. And I've had to really advocate for myself. And being a very quiet, anxious person, that was really difficult for me. But I've got to that point where I've done it so many times now. I think it's not changed my personality. Well, I don't want to say that it's changed me, but I want to say it's changed me for the better. Like I am more outgoing now. I will put my foot down. I will advocate for myself and I will get my opinion across now. Like, as I said before, I was very quiet. I wouldn't say anything. I'd sit there with the healthcare professionals and just be all "Ooh," like this. And I'd just take in everything they'd say and I wouldn't say anything. But because I've been gaslighted that many times now, I just say what I think. And I do think IBD has changed me for the better because I still think I'd be that same person before if I hadn't experienced all this.
Yeah, more power to you. I think that's great. And we can see it because you're very active on social media, specifically on TikTok. I mean, that's how I found you. That's how we connected. And, going through your feed, like you said, you're very outspoken. You're definitely not shy anymore. You're definitely not timid, right? You don't have an issue calling people out when you are facing ignorance, especially when it comes to IBD or questions that are not necessarily, let's say, of the smartest kind, right? And which is great, by the way. I love that because that's a really fresh take. How did it come to you really engaging yourself and taking the time to build your own platform on social media and first of all, share your own story, but then also sort of fight against stigma or misconceptions? Where did that come from?
So I just started my TikTok because I wanted some support because of what I was going through. I just not long had my surgery done. Then I was experiencing all these gastroparesis symptoms. So I thought, I'm going to do some videos, see if anyone will help me, see if it'll hit off. And I was really surprised how well it's gone over the last couple of years. And then I'd get some of these silly comments. And the ignorance from people when it comes to IBD is astounding. And I just used to get so annoyed with it. And yes, I probably shouldn't have reacted in how I have with some of the videos, but I get so annoyed with people's perception with IBD that they don't think it's that bad and they just think it's a pooing disease, when in fact we do suffer a lot with other problems associated with IBD. And the misconception of, which I know IBS is terrible. I've got friends that have got IBS. And they do suffer, but IBD is not IBS. And some of the things that I see on here just really rile me up. And I don't know where I've got the confidence from, to be honest. I try not to sound rude to people because I'm not that kind of person, but I like to get it across because I'm so protective over it. I know it sounds silly, but I'm so protective over the IBD community because there's a lot of misconceptions with it, and I don't accept that. I don't accept it at all as somebody who's gone through it and has gone through hell. Do you know what I mean? And there's a lot of others as well. And I just call it out now. I just call it out because I've had enough of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said just now, oh, maybe I should not be this harsh or something, but I disagree with you. I think you should be, because you just said it, there's an IBD community and a lot of people speak up for themselves, 100%. But I think the IBD community of people that are a little bit shyer or that facing the same sort of ignorance or misconceptions, seeing somebody like you, I think that empowers them, and empowers them to see somebody who's maybe a little bit more aggressive than others, right? So I think from my point of view, keep doing what you're doing. I don't think you need to apologize for anything. It's really great. Talk to me maybe a little bit about some of the major misconceptions that you just keep seeing that really tick you off. I know you talked just about IBS, IBD, but give me maybe one or two more. What is it, something that you just keep on seeing where like, oh my God, guys, we need to stop with this?
Oh, it's the food aspect. Now I know, I understand what some people are saying, like certain foods will trigger you off. We all have different triggers and things. But the whole just eat better and you'll be fine. Just eat and exercise and you'll be fine. Trust me, I've done that. I've done that. My diet has been perfect at times. And my exercise, I exercise a lot, and sometimes it makes absolutely no difference. And telling me to try all these other diets, and I've tried it and it doesn't work for everyone. Sometimes it does for some people, which is absolutely great, but there's this massive misconception that this one diet or just diet alone is going to help you. Some people need the medication, and I don't like that either. When some people come on here saying, "Oh, you don't need all these immune suppressants; they're really bad for you," blah blah blah, and I've heard that as well, which is really bad. And I'm like, some of these medications save people's lives when it comes to IBD. You can't be going around telling people that. They need to speak to their gastroenterologist and do their own plan. They need to think for themselves, stop spouting, things like that. That's the worst one for me, to be honest. That's the main one really, that really gets on my nerves.
Oh yeah, same here. It's like, hey, eat this, drink this, and oh, I healed my colitis or my IBD naturally by adjusting my diet. I'm like, there's something that doesn't sound right too, right? I think it's a combination of a lot of things. And I spoke to a dietitian recently as well. She said like, no, I mean, food plays a role, but it's just not the main reason, and that's just not one single way to cure this. Yeah. Kind of coming back full circle as we sort of move towards the final part. You talked a lot about support. Again, your husband, your dad, your family. There's a lot of advice that we as IBD warriors can give to people who live with the disease. But lots of times, the people who don't have IBD, but who live with somebody or who love somebody with IBD, they struggle as well because they want to support, but they don't really know how to. So as someone who has received incredible support from your closed ones, what kind of advice do you have for friends or family who are supporting someone with IBD, especially when they don't know how to approach it?
Just be there. Just listen. I know that sounds like really mediocre advice, but just listen, because I sometimes feel like I go on a little bit and ramble to my husband and like my mom and dad and things, but that's all I want them to do. I just want them to listen and just validate my feelings. My husband's absolutely great at it. I don't know how he puts up with it sometimes when I go on and on and on. But the biggest main thing for me is just having somebody who will listen to you and who will just support you, as in, like when I ask my husband go and get me some certain foods, he will. He doesn't, he's very patient. And I think with somebody with IBD, you do have to be very patient, because they're going to have their up and down days. And when the down days are here, they can be quite bad, to be honest. And specifically myself, I don't know about anybody else, but my mood can change if I don't feel very well. I can get quite irritable, and I know that myself. And my husband is very patient, so a lot of patience and just being there just to listen. That's the main thing that's helped me a lot.
And you just said like, it might sound so simple, but those simple ones actually play a huge, huge role, and they're very, very important, And a lot of people don't know how to listen. That's the thing, right? They just want to overcompensate, and just be there. And then, it becomes sort of like they're pushing their opinions on some others. So I think what you're saying is absolutely true. I think exactly the same way. If you look back at your IBD journey, and if you could speak to yourself on the day that you're diagnosed, what would you say, and what would do you wish you'd known maybe from the start or much earlier?
I'd say it's going to be a tough journey. It's going to be really tough, but you will get through it. You'll become a better person for it, if anything. And when they offer you that stoma surgery, just have it. Don't put it off. Don't try and be some hero that thinks, I don't need this. I don't need it. I'll do it myself. I'll be absolutely fine, because you won't. So listen to the healthcare professionals and just ride with it. Just go with it. Because that's what I wish I'd have done. I wish I hadn't tried to be some warrior that can get through it myself when I can't.
Yeah. Do you think that in our lifetime we'll see an IBD cure?
I would hope so. I would really, really hope so, because it's a horrible disease. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. It's really horrible. And I know it'd be a bit too late for like people like me who've already got a stoma, but I'd take it. If there was a cure, I'd take it straight away to cure Crohn's and colitis. I really would. And I would hope so in our lifetime. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, exactly. And that's kind of a message of hope. And that's how I always like to end the show as well, because IBD brings about a lot of challenges, but stories like you, they bring out hope as well. Even with surgery, it's all about getting the quality of our life back anyway. And it doesn't really matter how we get that back, as long as we get it back. And I think you're really the epitome of a person who went through a lot, had the surgery, and now really, lives her life, at least with IBD, almost, better than before. So Harriet, thanks so much for talking to me. I think this was really great, really inspiring. And please keep doing what you're doing, especially on TikTok. And please stay the, sort of harsher, aggressive you. I cannot stress it enough. It's really refreshing to see somebody like really calling out all the bullshit out there. So keep doing that, and I wish you nothing but the best moving forward. Thanks so much for talking to me today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I've enjoyed it.
That's it for today's episode of Colitis Unfiltered. I'm Frank Tabering, and if this hit home or hit your gut, do us a favor, subscribe to the show, and follow us at Colitis Unfiltered on YouTube, Substack, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and Reddit. We'll see you soon for more inspiring stories from the bathroom floor.